Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my channel. You're so very welcome here, whether you're a returning viewer, a subscriber, whether it's your first time here. Thank you for stopping by. I believe that for some reason you've been drawn to watch this video today, and it's rather a controversial one, if I'm very honest. But that's a bit what I'm like. I'm not one to let that hold me back in opening up the conversation about controversial topics sometimes. Just to introduce myself, I'm Christiana Davidson, and I'm a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and I specialize in the wonderful area of helping people heal from having had a narcissistic parent and the impact on that of that in adulthood. And the reason why I say the wonderful area is because there is so much wonderful transformation on offer for those that have come from this background. I think it leads to the greatest fruits in life. And I speak personally as well as from the experience I gained working with so many clients now around the world. Okay, so like I said, this is a bit controversial. The topic is recovering from narcissistic abuse, codependency, narcissism, and parasites. Parasites in terms of the parasitic relationships that we often end up in if we've had a narcissistic parent, but also in terms of the parasitic relationship mirrored within us. Not only psychologically, but physically too. Okay. I'd like to just say this before I begin, though. These are my own thoughts. They're my own ponderings. They're not based in any research. And the reason they're not is because to date, as far as I know, there isn't any. And I think it's a crucial area and a fascinating one. If anybody out there watching this has the resources to look into this and explore it and gather some data, my goodness, how interested I would be in the results that you get. So go for it if you can. So, what is this fascinating research that I'm going on about here? Well, let me try to explain it, and I hope I'm going to put it in a clear way. There's so much that I want to say here, but I won't be able to cover it all. So this is the gist of it. So if we think about it, narcissistic relationships are parasitic. And what does that mean? Well, one partner in the relationship, the narcissist, feeds off of the other. They feed off of using the other to maintain their false self. So whether that's with love bombing, whether that's with discard, doesn't matter. It's all about them maintaining their false self in the relationship. And the other partner in the relationship is the codependent, usually. It could be borderline, but usually a codependent presentation. And the other partner is the one that is prone to wanting to be fed off of. They want to be food for the narcissist, pleasing food for the narcissist. So they almost invite that in. But importantly here, the narcissist in the relationship also takes over the host psychologically. That is the aim. It's to take over by grooming, by the trauma bond, the thinking, the emotional equilibrium of the food or the host, the codependent or the borderline. It's a psychological takeover, in other words. That's what happens in relationship with a narcissist. Now, if you have found yourself in this type of relationship, then I suggest it almost always mirrors an early childhood relationship with a parent where you became useful to them in order to survive, either as the golden child or the scapegoat or whatever other role. And so here is my hypothesis. If the body keeps the score, then it will express the score, which is trauma. And the trauma is the parasitic relationship in the body. So if the body expresses the trauma of childhood, which was a parasitic type relationship, then the body is going to express the parasitic type relationship. Does that make sense? I hope so. It's going to express it in the body, in other words. So my hypothesis is that not only are we taken over psychologically by an imposter, by something that feeds off of us psychologically, but the body will be expressing that, and we will more than likely have been taken over physically by a parasitic infestation within us. Now, the thing is, we all do have parasites within us. We do. We have good ones. We have so-called bad ones, the ones that have a tendency to take over and cause manifold issues. But what we have to do is we have to keep them in balance, because when those bad ones take over, the effects are enormous, not only physiologically but psychologically too. And it's been shown in brain scans how parasitic infestations and overrun of parasites within the body affect one's thinking, and of course cause addictive behaviors. They are enormously powerful, these parasites. They can drive you to do exactly the opposite of what you want to do, and you can be thinking to yourself, well, why am I keeping doing this? It must be something psychologically is wrong with me, but actually it can be physiologically. It can be the result of these parasites that are so demanding that they will cause you to think of the addictive habitual behaviors that will maintain their environment for them so that they can feed more. And that's the thing about these parasites. They have an insatiable need to feed, much like the narcissist. They literally take over their host unless there are measures taken to keep them in balance within. They thrive in an acidic environment. We are both acidic and alkaline, and we need to keep those in balance. And trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, memories of trauma, triggers, they create acidity in the body, negative thinking too. So psychologically, we can be creating an acidic environment in the body, which is where these parasites, bad parasites, feed. They feed in acid. Excuse me. So in order to survive, the parasites need to manipulate you to provide them an acidic environment within, especially in the gut, which is where they dominate, and the liver, which really is your second brain, if you think about it, your gut instincts, as they say. So it's there that they need you to create an acidic environment. How do they do this, though? Well, how do we help them maintain an acidic environment? Well, we do it through food. So these parasites will give you cravings for foods that are going to cause acidity in the body, junk food, you name it. And you can be blaming yourself for being a compulsive eater, or not being able to stop eating. You could have a parasitic infestation, and it's not your willpower that's awful. It's the fact that we need to get these parasites under control, because they are running the show. So that's one way that they can cause this acidic environment. But the other way is also through maintaining the trauma, keeping you held in the trauma, the memories of it, keeping you repeating the same patterns, attracting the same types to maintain you in that trauma type relationship with other people. They want your thoughts to be acidic too. And the thing is, as with any kind of addiction or compulsion, we find some relief in giving into it. And that's what they want. There will be some kind of relief in being in a narcissistic relationship. If you're a codependent or an empath or a borderline even, it kind of does bring some relief because it's keeping you held in the familiar trauma of the past. So what I am trying to suggest here is that there is possibly, in my own view, a crucial area of healing from narcissistic abuse in childhood, but also in adulthood, which leads to codependency that is body focused. So we must treat the psychological infection physically too, and switch to an alkaline inner terrain in order to make us non-habitable physically for psychological freeloaders, for parasitic freeloaders, in other words, for parasites, just the same way that we must become unattractive to parasitic personalities by growing in self-esteem and boundaries and assertion and self-care. So there's a work to be done physiologically on changing the second brain as well as the main brain. The gut is always known as the second mind, isn't it? Or second brain. And it's key. And I think it's been overlooked completely, in my humble opinion. So we do the same within as we do without in these parasitic relationships. We make ourselves unattractive to them, and we choose that. So if you identify as a codependent or empath, I would not be at all surprised if there is a tendency towards parasitic overgrowth like candida or parasites, a parasitic infestation, especially in the liver. Now, the liver is the seat of anger. And the work that I do with clients, it's often about suppressed anger, because anger causes acidity in the body. So quite likely the liver is a place that's going to be needed to be cleansed of these parasites. But there will also more than likely be a gut microbiome imbalance that is sort of creating this acidic environment. Now, many people I know have noticed a correlation when doing a detox or cleanse in some way, shape, or form, doesn't matter. I'm going to give an example now, but this is only one way. That is, that actually the detox becomes a catalyst for further realizations and letting go of parasitic ways of being in relationship. So, you can go on a detox and then be flooded by all these realizations of how you've been showing up in relationship. You might be flooded with memories of trauma and things like that start to process and come up and out. And the depth of your early parasitic relationship can become very clear when doing a detox. And what always happens is that the parasites during this time know that you're not responding to their demands, so they will try literally to tempt you back at using anything possible to get you back into feeding them what they need, even getting you back into parasitic relationships, or getting you to stay stuck in trauma, going over it, ruminating more and more. This can be food for the parasites. One client did this type of parasitic cleanse, and the way she did it was through eating a mainly fruit and greens diet. And it was all raw. Actually, she did lots of juices, lots of whole fruits, smoothies, and green juice, and things like that, coupled with using natural antiparasitics like oregano oil or Mira EPF. She also used coffee enemas and colonic irrigations. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Colonic hydrotherapy, I think it's called, over the space of about a year. And she was absolutely stunned by the amount of parasites that she released. She could see them in what was released from within her. In fact, she sent me photos of them. I would say almost over 50. I didn't get 50 photographs, but I think all in all there were over 50. Some of them were a foot long. And she was a codependent. She'd been codependent from her earliest days. But as she did this process, as she released parasite after parasite, physical parasite after parasite, she released parasitic relationships at the same time. It was quite phenomenal to witness. But while she was going through this process, she was driven back to being in relationship with some narcissistic types, without a doubt. And she ended up back in some, but as she cleansed more and more, she became stronger and stronger, and was able to separate herself more and more from friends and romantic partners as well. It was an incredible journey. And having witnessed this in her and others, and in my own personal journey too, I have a hypothesis. So, one, cleansing the gut and doing an anti-parasitic protocol, I suggest could be the catalyst that will shoot you forward tenfold in your healing journey, especially if you couple that with the psychological healing like hypnotherapy, etc. Number two, I do not, now this is another controversial bit, I do not believe that anything is incurable. Just like codependency, I think narcissistic personality disorder will also be a physiological manifestation. The body will speak of it too. And in that way, I think if we approach it first physiologically, because we know the resistance of the narcissistic type psychologically, well, who knows? I mean, whatever we do within is going to affect us psychologically too. So I wonder if we were to deeply and thoroughly cleanse the gut and the liver of those with narcissistic personality disorder first, then administer antiparasitics and continue to create an alkaline environment within, thus restoring the connection, the gut connection, the gut instincts, I wonder what the effects would be on both codependents and narcissists. For the codependent, it is something I would 100% recommend if I were a medical practitioner. And I underline that, if I were a medical practitioner, because I'm not. The body always keeps the score. It expresses the score, in other words, and we need to look at how the body expresses the parasitic relationship. Because if we don't, we're missing an aspect of healing that could be so helpful to so many people, and really speed up the healing process. Excuse me. So in summary, codependents are vulnerable to those who wish to feed on them. But the thing is, they want to be fed on, because it's what they believe being loved feels like. Narcissists are driven to feed on others psychologically to maintain the acidic environment inside them and in their partner. Could this be a big step towards reversing the trauma that is stored in the body and gives rise to a parasitic infestation in the gut, in the liver, in other organs as well, even in the brain sometimes, in both narcissists and codependents? Well, I suggest it would be fascinating research to get some data on. I'm not sure how we do it, but I think in my own opinion, I think that this could be perhaps the missing step towards discovering a way for healing that is as yet slightly overlooked, I would suggest. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments on this. There's so much depth that could be gone into here, and I've only been able to kind of touch the surface of it. It's a bit frustrating, really. I'd love to really get to grips with it, but for the purposes of this video and at the risk of boring you any further, I'll leave it there. But please do, like I say, leave your comments. And if you'd like to work with me, please reach out, free consultation, and we will get you moving forward, body, mind, and soul. Take care, everyone. Bye now.